Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Welcome to the Permission Movement Experience. My name is Velyn Hawkins, and I'm the founder and dean of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship and the creator of the Permission Movement. And I just want to say thank you for joining us today. Me and my very special guest, ALINE Boundy, are going to share with you some amazing concepts that ALINE has derived to help you to align with your purpose and align with your story. So I want to start off by telling you a little bit about our guest today. ALINE Boundy is a life coach, a qualified Reiki and EFT practitioner, and founder of Align with Your Purpose. She helps people turn their lives around by discovering what they're really good at and finding their sense of purpose. Since leaving her 30-plus year teaching career in the UK and Europe, she's interviewed many experienced leaders in the field of personal development. This inspired her to create a membership site called Path to Purpose, and you can find out what she's doing by listening in today. She's bringing you information about how you can really find yourself on your path to purpose. Today, the Permission Movement Experience is bringing you align with your story and align with your purpose. Now, you probably have already heard about what the Permission Movement Experience is all about, but I want to just give you a little bit of background because ALINE is one of our co-authors in the book, Permission to be Powerful. And she has written a chapter that really is much of her story and much of how she stands today and the power that she is realizing as a woman entrepreneur and someone who is just really interested in helping make the world a better place by helping people just like you. The Permission Movement Experience was born out of the book, and it is actually our program that we are doing all of these digital modules to be packaged, and those packages being sold so that we can provide not just these packages, but the book, the study guide, and a leader guide to small groups of girls and women who these are groups that we've identified, girls who are aging out of foster care, who are looking at life ahead of them and really being scared, questioning what things might be like on their own. And we're talking about girls coming out, transitioning out of juvenile detention and thinking, oh my God, if I have to go back to the environment that I came out of, what is next for me? And then we're looking at women who are transitioning out of the prison system, who are basically saying something very similar. And then women who are transitioning out of the military, who are thinking very similarly that life looks different to them now than it possibly did when they enlisted. And do they go back to where they came from? Do they go forward? How do they go forward? How do they incorporate what it is that they know now into where it is that they're going in their future? And this happens, the Permission Movement Experience in the book actually brings to these groups of girls and women the life skills tools that each of the co-authors actually writes about in their chapter. And the study guide will expound upon the strategy that each co-author used, the tool, and really it is to give these girls and women more tools in their life skills toolbox so that they can have that promised future that many of us wish that we had had some of this information at age 20 or 30 or even younger. And, you know, it is about our story. It is about where we get to at the point that we say, my story of my past does not equal the story of my future. But how do I get there? And that's what we're going to talk to our guest about today, ALINE Boundy. Hi, ALINE. How are you?
Hi, Lynn. I'm fine, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for the lovely welcome.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here because you actually are doing something that is first phase of change. And it's in the what I call the awareness sector. You know, you cannot change what you're not aware of. And that I think is a great segue into my first question for you, and that is tell us a little bit more about your journey and how it is that you came from this little girl growing up in Europe to this beautiful woman who is doing so much for so many people.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, you want the short version, I presume. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Um, the little girl growing up in well, I grew up in the UK. I'm from the UK, and I did grow up to be a teacher, and I taught in the UK, and then I moved to Greece, which is at the eastern end of Europe, if you like, at the moment. And I lived there for over 20 years, taught in a school there, and um, I loved it. I loved the different environment there, the different culture, all of that sort of thing. I had a family there. And yet for many years, more latterly, when I was there, I felt stuck. I felt stuck because I had three small children who were being educated in the school I was teaching at. And so I felt stuck. I couldn't move because of this. And when I look back, there were many places in my life where I've told myself the same story. You can't change because, fill in the blank. And it wasn't until I became more aware, I raised my level of awareness, which you alluded to. Because, in my book too, awareness precedes change. You can't start changing until you're aware of exactly where you are and what you want to do. And so I started looking for other things to do. I was getting a little jaded with the education system. I loved teaching, but let's say the administrative side of teaching was expanding to take up a lot of time. And anyone who's a teacher or who knows teachers will be aware of this in the current sort of decade. This is where the way things go. And so I was exploring different avenues of possibility, to change career or substitute part of what I was doing. And I had a look at network marketing, which was really interesting for me. But it wasn't so much the network marketing. I got most out of the business development and personal development training that came with it. And one of my key moments was when this speaker came from the United States, and he stood on the stage there, and we were all sitting, ready to be informed. And he said, "Where you are right now is exactly where you're meant to be." And I was absolutely furious. I said, inside myself, I was thinking, no, it's not. I don't want to be stuck here, worried about money, three small children. I was recently divorced or separated at that time. Lots of stresses and worry in my life. This is not where I want to be. It's not my fault I'm here, this whole story. But he obviously planted a seed. I don't remember the rest of his talk in any detail, but that particular sentence, because it really made me sit up. And it obviously planted a seed, as I say, in my head. And it got me thinking, and that thinking helped me raise my level of awareness around what was this story I was telling myself. I was now, effectively alone with three small children. Their father was very close by, and he did obviously look after them as well, and he helped bring them up and so on. But to look at my part in everything was quite eye-opening, and it made me realize that I didn't have to continue the way that I was. I did actually stay in Greece for quite some years after that, but it had started a process, and I was always looking to change. And then, I got into more personal development and personal growth, seminars, books, that sort of thing, and eventually moved back to the UK, got another teaching job here, but almost parallel, I started developing this online presence, which was a lot of work and a lot of learning, and I call it a vertical learning curve. It wasn't a curve at all, it was just straight up because I knew nothing. And then I got into this idea of, well, I can interview people, I can do this telesummit idea. And I did. I started off and interviewed a few people who I'd been, I didn't know them, but I was connected with them as a customer in a sense. I had been a customer of various people, and they very graciously, accepted to be interviewed in my first telesummit, and it just went on from there. And now it's become, I've developed these 5 steps to aligning with your purpose from all of the interviews and the conversations I've had over the past 3-4 years, which I've distilled down into these steps, you see, and the things that all of these experts touched on. And I think it's a really nice system, in a sense, to help people get clear about why they're here and what their story is.
Beautiful. I often think about, my own story, and I am so amazed when others have their story, tell me their story, and I can see the parallels. It's really amazing. So tell us, aligning with your purpose, how do you get started with even figuring out, first of all, if you're already aligned, and if you're not, what your purpose might be?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, isn't it? I think an easy sort of litmus test almost as to whether or not you're aligned with your purpose is how happy and at peace and full of joy you feel in your daily life on a regular basis. If you had to put a number on it, would you rate your everyday life, including all aspects of your life, whether it's your relationships, your family, your health, your job or career, would your number be up towards 10, or would it be more like 4 or 5? In the sense of how happy and joyful you feel about it. Because if you are in alignment with your purpose, if you know what it is that you are here to do, and I personally believe that everyone on the planet has a specific thing, something that they do better than anybody else. And I've been questioned on this many times, and they say, well, people say there can't be that many different things for people to do. No, a lot of people have similar purposes, but each person is an individual. Each person brings their own interpretation, their own experience, their own flavor, their own slant to it. Yeah. And so, yes, there are lots of people, for example, whose purpose is to look after abandoned animals, let's say, as an example. People who love animals and who want to care for them, who get really upset when they see animals being mistreated. But if you look in that whole area, there are many people doing many different approaches, so it's not that there's just one way to do it. And really the simplest piece of one-off advice I could give is, to follow your joy, follow your bliss, follow what you love to do. And this really was if I can just make a little aside, was a little bit of a struggle for me as I was trying to raise my awareness around, what I was doing with my life and my story, because I realized that for many years, the story I was telling myself was the one I'd been brought up with, the one which said you have to go to school and work hard and do well at school and pass your exams and go to college and get a good degree and then get a good job and then you're okay. Yeah, so at 20, whatever it is, however old you come out of university, that's you set, that was the advice that came through from my school, from my parents, the older generation, let's say. And I did that, and I did it quite well. and yet there was something missing. There was something that wasn't right. And even though I love what I was doing, I've always loved the French language, and I was a French teacher originally. I became an English teacher as well, because I speak English, obviously. But and I loved doing that, and I loved teaching French initially. But then, things changed, and it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. And this is something else that happens. Um, a friend of both of us, Lynn, and one of the people that I first interviewed, it was Natalie Ledwell, from Mind Movies. And when I first interviewed her, she said, for her life purpose is, to be the best person you can be and to help as many people as you can, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. She said, but the way that manifests at different times of your life can change. And that's so true. So we all have an impetus, a motivation, something that drives us to show up in the way we do in the world, whatever that happens to be. When I was a teacher, I was showing up primarily as a teacher of French or perhaps English. But at the same time, you're there as a person. You're there as someone who can listen to adolescents and children and listen to their problems. And so you're playing multiple roles, really. And that I enjoyed that part of being a teacher. That was a great advantage, let's say, of that profession. And in a sense, that's what I've moved into, except not with teenagers anymore. So life coaching is more with adults, obviously. And it's helping people to realize that they don't need to be stuck like I was, thinking, oh, I've got to stay here because this is what I was supposed to do. That wasn't my story. That was my parents' story, And once you're aware of that, and you can start to make your own decisions about, okay, so what is it I want to do with the rest of my life? That's really exciting, and I found it very liberating and a bit scary as well, because if you've been used to doing something that you've been told how to do, and then you have to take the responsibility for your decisions, that's a big step. And that's I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned. Take 100% responsibility for where you are, and decide to, if you don't like it, then decide to change. So I think I've gone way off track there from what you first asked, but never mind.
That's actually a perfect answer, because that's where so many of us are. And one of the things I know that the co-authors were really interested in doing is meeting these young people at a place where they may be asking those questions. And instead of hearing somebody say, well, don't worry about that right now, as you become an adult, you'll figure that out. It's like, why don't you figure that out at the earliest age possible, so that you can, in fact, walk into your life and say, I want to create things this way, versus now I have to change things because I've created this whatever it is that I no longer serves me, no longer satisfies me, no longer is who I would like to be. And that's not to say that that won't happen as well, because I do believe in that, we all continue to emerge. As we continue to grow, we emerge into the woman, the man who we really were created to be. Before we became a seed in our mother's wombs, our lives were already designed for purpose. If nothing else, the rest then became our choices. And right. I love that, because what you've described is the fact that there's so many places in life that you get to choose. I like this. I don't like this. And if I don't care for this, I have the ability to change it. And I think, you brought up a very good point about responsibility. Oh my gosh, I'm raising my 12-year-old grandson now. My youngest child, my son, recently passed away, and he had sole custody of my grandson. So I am back in the phase of caregiver. Um, don't call me grandma. My grandmother name is Mia, so the family all calls me Mia. But, again, that's about choice. What did I want to create as a grandmother? And
Uh-huh.
then, too, what do I desire to create in the relationship with my grandson?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I really had to step back and kind of look at what the awareness was showing me in order to, again, take that responsibility and move forward to create what it is that I desire in my future. And I know that, the younger that we can impact those lives, which is probably why you went into teaching, one of the reasons, how can I help impact the life of a youngster? Let me hit him at, grade school or middle school or high school.
Yeah.
And yes, when it's like being a doctor, why do most doctors go into medical practice? Because they have this vision of being able to help people.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I've had a lot of doctors. I know a lot of doctors now who have exited the medical field to do other things because they found themselves unable to actually fulfill what they felt was their purpose, their heart's desire. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that you have this process of bringing people into the light of their purpose and defining what they are next choosing to do. Tell us
Mm.
something about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, the process that I came up with, which as I said grew out of the interviews that I did with all these wonderful experts in the field of personal development and so on, and actually sometimes it's called the human potential movement, which I really love because that
Oh,
really
yeah.
sums it up, Um, it really is helping people, and I'll just backtrack a little bit because you talked about you know trying to catch people young and help them realize this stuff when they're younger. And I think a lot of what a lot of teachers do in school is to help children, adolescents believe in themselves, because there are a lot of young people who have very, very low self-esteem for whatever reason. There's a whole myriad of reasons, as we know.
Hmm.
Problems in the home, problems in the society. And I think that is crucial to have a strong, healthy sense of who you are is kind of foundational to be able to then think, okay, I know who I am, and now I can look at what I want to do in the world. And I think I'm going to go through the steps in a little while, but I think that everyone knows deep down when they're on track. You asked me right at the beginning, how do you know if you're in line with your purpose? There's something almost visceral which happens, which just helps you to understand that you are doing things that are on track, and yet uh, I think okay. Step one is about connecting with what I call your higher self. You might call it your soul. You might call it your inner guidance. It doesn't really matter. It's the part of you which is connected, in my book anyhow, to the divine, to all that is, to God, if you wish to use those terms. The words are, for me, are not so important. It's more a sense of a connection to something bigger than you. And that something, to me, always uh, gives you hints and nudges towards your purpose, towards what you're supposed to be doing. And those hints and nudges come in the form of feeling, like when I said, when you feel joy, when you feel that you're really having a great time doing what you're doing, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So do more of it, and that's easily said, obviously. I grew up, as I said, with the idea that, you do all these things, you do well, you get the job, and you go to work. There was no sense of expect to enjoy your work. It was kind of, you go to work, you go to your job, you do your job, to bring the money in, to pay the bills, and then whatever little time you have left over by when you've fulfilled your responsibilities to your family or whoever, then you can do what you like to do. It was kind of this Protestant work ethic, work hard, do your duty, and if there's any time over, then you can, read a book or paint or whatever it is you like to do. And it took me a long time to get away from that idea, and I don't think I'm alone, which is why I'm making the point about it. But the way that I would approach things now is to say, follow what it is that you do love to do. So if you are very artistic and creative, go for that and do that as much as you can. And it may not be that you will find something that will totally, support you financially in that area, but it might. There are lots of people who do. So don't discount it. When I was a teenager, that sort of thing was discounted. Anything artsy was kind of, oh well, that's very frivolous and it's only for the odd few people who can make a great living at it. Don't expect to make it's like the starving artist in the garret, or the writer, with their gloves with no fingers so they can type in the cold, and these ideas that we have of people not being able to follow what they wanted to do as we grew up. So going back to my step one, which is to connect with your higher self, my suggested way to do that is through meditation, through just getting quiet and allowing your thoughts to come. And sometimes you get a feeling in your gut. We talk about my gut instinct. Well, that is your higher self communicating with you. It's not talking in words. It may be some people do develop an ability to kind of ask questions internally and hear the answers, but other people may just want to go with the feelings that come up. And there are lots of ways. Once you start to deliberately cultivate this connection, and I do advise meditation because it's a great way to start the day and a way to stay centered and focused. It helps you to become more aware of things that are happening around you, so that you will see opportunities that you may have been unaware of before, or synchronicities. Oh, I was just thinking about her, and there she is across. There's my friend, and I haven't seen her for ages. I mean, we've all experienced this kind of thing, and we very often brush it off as a coincidence. You haven't heard from someone for ages, and you start thinking about them, and either the phone rings or you get an email from them or something. These are not coincidence. There is no such thing as a coincidence. You're putting that out, and it's coming back to you. And so that connection is a wonderful way to begin getting clearer about what you are passionate about your purpose. Because if you don't get calm and quiet, you can't hope to hear these messages. If you liken your mind to a boat on a stormy sea, when you're in a stormy sea, you're focused on survival and on hanging on to something that's not going to move. When the sea is calm, like when you meditate, then you can hear these messages coming through, and you can use them to help you move along. So that's step one. Sorry, I'm taking an awful long time here to get to these things, aren't I?
Ooh, your analogies are beautiful. I love the whole in the water and holding on and noticing the difference, and really knowing that we have the ability to control the turmoil that's going on around us. And so yeah. Go ahead, keep going.
Go.
I'm taking notes, and I am hoping that our audience is doing the same. Get your pen out because this is noteworthy.
Okay. So step two is believe change is possible and allow yourself to dream. And believe change is possible, really, we'll have to tack on two more words there. Believe change is possible for you. And this goes back to what I was saying about, having a healthy self-image, a healthy sense of self-esteem, that you are worth something, that you are a person in your own right, and that you are worth spending this time on. You've decided you'd like to make some changes, so you need to believe that that is going to happen for you. If you set out and from the beginning you're thinking, oh, well, I'll do this, but I don't really think it's going to work. Well, let me tell you, it won't work. Because whatever you believe, it kind of, it guides the outcome of what you're trying to change. So you have to really perhaps do some more intense work on your self-talk. Catch yourself saying these little negative things to yourself, like, "Oh, I don't think it'll work for me." That's why I say believe change is possible for you, because it's quite easy to say, "Oh, yes, change is possible." Yes, for you, Lynn, or for somebody else, or for you over there. But me, I'm not sure, So I do always put those little words on the end. And as we said before, awareness precedes change. We have to be aware of what's holding us back and the ways that we self-sabotage.
Those beliefs are amazing. I mean, they are key. I like what you said. I mean, it is truly believe or not. Whatever you choose is right. That will happen for yourself. I remember first learning a Henry Ford quote. Whether you believe it or not, you are right.
Yes.
And so I believe that change is possible for you, but not for me. Well, I'm right. It's not going to happen for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you have choice in that. I love that you made that distinction with bringing up awareness. Now that you're aware that you're putting yourself in that place, you can choose and change it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's very powerful, very empowering, that. And the second part of step two is to dream big, where we tend, when people say, "Oh, what would you like to have?" we tend to limit ourselves to what we think we can do now. And if we limit our goal setting, we limit our vision for what we want to see in our future, then it will be limited. It's self-fulfilling in a sense. So my encouragement is to dream big. Think of what you would really love to do. If you'd like to go on a holiday, is it a holiday to where you've always gone, to the same place the same kinds of places you've always gone to, or is it would a holiday somewhere completely different be the kind of place you'd like to go to? So it really is a question of expanding your vision and pushing yourself to, if you've ever thought, "Oh yeah, well actually it would be really nice, like I've always wanted to go and see the Northern Lights, and I'd love to go on one of those cruises in the Arctic Circle where you're almost guaranteed at certain times of the year to see the Northern Lights."
Yes.
I've since found you can actually see them on the beach near me, about 10 miles away, very occasionally. But twice in the last year it's happened, and I haven't known. So but the reason I mentioned that would be pushing out my vision of a holiday for me, to go on a cruise to the Arctic Circle, because that's a bit different, So dream big and vision what you want. Get some pictures. We know great ways of making vision boards, or even digital vision boards, like in Mind Movies, and add emotion in there. That's the crucial thing. focus on how you're feeling when you see that, or whenever I think about that cruise up in the Arctic, you know, I get so excited, and it's going to happen at some point. You know, I'm going to go.
I am as well.
Okay, maybe we're going together, Lynn.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love it.
And so it's getting clear, you know, allowing yourself to dream is getting clear about what you want to see, and then letting it go. So you set the intention, but you don't worry about the how. You just put it out there, and forget about how it's going to happen. That's the universe's job. That's not your job. And moving on quickly to step three is finding your passion and purpose. And I have to say, the order of these steps has shifted and changed. 2 and 3 were the other way around, and originally I've put them this way. You can actually start anywhere, but you know, step 1, to connect with your higher self and start listening and nurturing that connection, I think is crucial and quite foundational. So step 3 is finding your passion and purpose, and we've talked about this a little bit already. You know, paying attention to the kinds of signals that you get from your body, from how much you're enjoying what you're doing. Do you feel on track? Are you doing something that, you know, you actually lose sense of time because you love it so much? You get so involved with it that suddenly 3 hours have passed and you think, oh my goodness, where did the time go? That's a good sign that you're on track, and that's something you should, you know, seriously consider about, you know, doing more of in whatever way you can. And similarly, if you're off track, if you're feeling sadness or a bit down or uneasy or any of these more negative emotions, then you're off track, you're off your path. So, you know, minimize those activities as much as you can. And if they're to do with people who are part of your life, then, you know, the other things you need to consider there, whether you want to spend less time with them. It can be tricky. I don't want to get into, you know, personal relationships, but that can be tricky when you've got people who are constantly putting out negative vibes and sort of draining your emotional energy. You need to be able to manage your own emotions and how you respond in order to stay on track and be, you know, firmly and clearly on your path to purpose. Excuse me. So those passions, the things that you love to do, are the clues, and if you follow the things that you love to do, you will you'll get closer to your purpose. It will unfold, or the particular manifestation of your purpose at this point in time, let's say, right? And then, of course, what happens is when you start making these changes, because change is not easy, you have to be courageous to step onto this track, really. Change is not easy. Then we hear that little voice of the ego, what I was talking about before, negative self-talk. Oh no, who do you think you are? You can't do that. You know, because you're changing what you've always done and you're not doing it the same way. And so this is where these limiting beliefs and blocks start coming up. And this is the wonderful part of your mind, sometimes called the ego, that really, it just wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you in a safe place. But that means that you have to stay where you are and not make any changes. So it's dealing with this, and there are various ways. We don't have time to go into them here in the short time we have today. But there are various ways you can deal with this kind of inner dialogue, if you like, with your mind, which is, you know, trying to keep you where you are because you want to shift and you want to move. And it's worth remembering at this point that your conscious mind, that part that's talking to you, that you can actually converse with, in a sense, it's only 5% of your mind. 95% of what's going on, of what's driving your thoughts and your actions and your behavior and your speech, is subconscious. It's what I was saying. You know, I was living the program from my parents. It was subconscious. I didn't know why I was making decisions the way I was. I thought I was just doing what you're supposed to do. And it's fine if that works for you, but when you get to the point where you want something different, and you have a sense that there is something more to life than what you're actually doing. That's when you have to start to make the change. So there are lots of ways of approaching, these limiting beliefs. The ones I like are emotional freedom technique, tapping. I know you are trained in that as well, and it's a very effective method, especially helpful when you're in the heat of the moment and you really need to take some of the emotional charge out. Um, I've also used something called the Sedona method, which is a series of very simple questions which can, just by repeating them, you can get to the actual crux or the hub of the matter. Lots of different ways to deal with these limiting beliefs and move them, become aware of them and shift them and let them go, really. So that because you have to let them go to allow space for all these new things that you want in your life. If you are already full up with all these ideas and you're in serious overwhelm, there's no way you're going to make much effective change until you kind of root these things out and say, thank you very much, but time to move on, bye, in one way or another. And then you can start to build the way that consciously that you want to build your life the way you want it, in alignment with your purpose. Which brings us to step 5, which really is a kind of a concluding step. And it is into action, begin walking the path. And in a sense, you start on step 5 as soon as you decide to make these changes. And the thing that I always tell people is it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run the marathon, the first week or month that you start doing this. It can be baby steps, just a single step at a time. One little step at a time, one little change, small changes that are guided by your vision, by your connection with your higher self, which always has your best interest in mind and knows what your purpose is. It has a sense of what you're here to do. And so it's communicating this to you. And the better connection you have, the clearer you're going to be about your life purpose. And the more easily you will walk forward and step into your power, step into your new story, write your new story, to go back to our story theme for today, and part of step 5 is really, as a big focus in it, on helping you to create a daily practice to support the changes that you're making, to integrate all these changes into your life, and to help you stay focused in a way that will allow you to connect with your inner self, much more readily than you probably are doing now for most people. So that's a quick run through the 5 steps to aligning with your purpose.
That is just so amazing. Why don't you go through and recap each of the 5? Just recap them real quickly.
The actual step 1 is go within and connect with your higher self, whatever you perceive that to be. Step 2, find your passion and purpose. Because if you don't know what your purpose is, I forget who it was said this, if you don't know what your purpose is to find your purpose. And the way to find your purpose is to follow your passions, because they lead you to your purpose. So there's a kind of a logic to that there. So step 2, find your passion and purpose. Step 3, believe change is possible for you. Allow yourself to dream, and dream big. Step 4 is identify and release limiting beliefs and blocks, all these things that have kept you stuck where you are. And step 5 is into action, begin walking the path. And I actually like to say, begin walking your path to purpose. So that's the 5 steps there.
Beautiful.
It's a bit of structure.
It makes so much sense to me, not just to have a specific process to go through, but that it is set up in such a logical way that, our first question is, well, how do I do this? Well, the way that you have this set up, it just outlines it so beautiful. And then, the other piece of it is too that the how, you think about all the little details that people may want to answer, and the how do I get to the details? Well, going through this process, the how of that will be revealed. And I so love that. And the fact that you talked about meditation being such a huge piece of how you come into the space of having these answers to surface. I know that you brought to our audience an amazing bonus gift. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, and then I'll make sure that people know how to get to it.
Sure, yeah. Well, the gift is actually from the telesummit interviews I did over the years, and I've picked out 3 interviews, which for me are 3 really great ones that would really help you get started addressing some of these things that I've talked about today. So I call this little bonus package Quick Start on Your Path to Purpose. And it's 3 MP3 audios. It's interviews with Natalie Ledwell, who we already mentioned. Natalie is the founder of Mind Movies. She's a best-selling author. She's an amazing person who has an amazing story of her own, and she is really great. She's known as a law of attraction guru, although she kind of laughs about that as well. And it's one of my first interviews with her. So in that, she talks about how to get clear about what you want to do with your life. The second one is with Carol Luck, who is probably the best known EFT master on the planet at the moment. She's world renowned, and she's very, very clear about how using tapping, these tapping points, how using that can really help you shift things. And it's an interview with her. And the third one was with a spiritual life coach who is less well known, but he's absolutely fantastic, called Roger K. Marsh, and he's from California. He really addresses the spiritual side of my whole process about connecting with your higher self. In fact, it was Roger who I worked with at the end of my very first summit. We worked together to condense the content of like 12 hours of interviews into 1 hour, and we came up with these 5 steps. So he's been instrumental in the creation of the 5 steps. So it's 3 MP3 record of those interviews. They're about an hour long each. I don't remember exactly. And then there's also a guided meditation that I did, which I've had a lot of really positive feedback from, which is called Connecting Heaven and Earth. And I do these guided meditations. It's about 20 minutes long, I think. I like to do these, to record these guided meditations, because a lot of people, when you say meditation, they say, oh well, I've tried that, but I can't do it. I can't empty my mind. And so as a kind of a way to get started, I've found it's very helpful to follow a guided meditation. So you hear my voice helping you, it takes you on a little journey to connect heaven and earth. So we connect up to the divine and down into the earth and all this sort of thing. And it just helps engage the active part of your mind that wants to take you off to did I put the cat out, and oh my goodness, have I got enough food in for that dinner party? Or it wants to take you off to all those things. Just keeps you on track, and you can follow along. And I really like the whole connection part anyhow. So that's the 4th part. So that's the free gift for anyone who'd like to go for it.
Beautiful. And you can get that by going to permissionmovement.org, and across the top yellow menu bar all the way to the right, you'll see PM Experience, and in that drop down menu you will see Align with Your Purpose, and go to that page. It will be right there. So, and along with that, we want to give you an opportunity to get connected with ALINE, to really be on this journey, this path to purpose. And she's got something that I asked her to present to our audience. And because, you know, when I think about how can I impact the lives of others, I do that by bringing to you those who, along with myself, are doing that which can help, are in the space of providing the tools, the systems, the strategies, the themes that will help you to move more quickly to the place of being in your purpose so that you can then be of service to others and make your difference in the world. So, ALINE, tell us a little bit about what you've got on that side.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. And I love the way you introduced that, because it's right. You know, there are lots of us out here doing this similar kind of work. And all I would say is that, you know, if what you've heard today speaks to you and you'd like to connect with me and work with me, I'd be delighted. And what I'm offering is a 30-day free trial, well, almost free, like a $1 or something, I think, isn't it? A 30-day $1 trial to my membership site, which is Path to Purpose, where we'll basically be going through these 5 steps over the course of the weeks and months ahead, and we'll go in them in a lot more detail. The beginning, obviously, we start off by establishing the daily practice, the meditations you'll get, and there are weekly calls, weekly live calls, where if you come into the program, you get the chance to sit on my chair of change, and depending on where you are in your life, we'll take you through these 5 steps and help you get started on your path to purpose. I sometimes also have interviews with you know, people from the field of personal development and personal growth as an extra as well, and you can get a one-on-one strategy session with me as well, which is much more focused individually, and other meditations that I do, and discounts on workshops and things like that. There are lots of benefits to being in my membership site, but basically it's to get you started on your track, on your path to purpose, and that's what the whole focus is at the beginning. So I'd love to welcome you into that, and Lynn, I'm sure, has a link for that too.
Yes, actually, you can find that on the exact same page. Go to permissionmovement.org. Go to the yellow menu bar, PM Experience, the drop-down menu. You will see Align with Your Purpose. And just go to the page. See the information that's there. There will be a replay of this video on that page. And you'll see the links to the downloadable gifts as well as the membership. So, you know, I just have to say that actually, as we're winding down this 9 weeks, 9 celebrity guests, and many of our co-authors, it has just been such a pleasure to see the co-authors who are in a place of already doing their work and giving their gifts to audiences all around the world. We are in a global environment now, and to be able to share this information in such a way that it can reach so many people, we're asking you to share this with your friends, share this with your relatives, share this with the young people in your life. Watch these videos with them. Talk about the information that's been shared here. You be the catalyst for beginning to make change in the world, helping others to become aware of where they are and what the possibilities are. You know, on our website it talks about 2015 being the year of 8. 8 being infinite potential and infinite possibilities, and it starts with you. We're doing our part. We're bringing you the Permission Movement experience with love, It is part of our passion and our passionate work, and we're asking you to play with us. Take a look at how you can get your digital package and your opportunity to have this material to review for yourself, to make some impacts in the world by sharing it. And I want to tell you, we have had Natalie Ledwell as one of our presenter teachers. We are having DC Cordova, Dame DC Cordova, talking about money and you. We've had David Bullock talking about story. How does your story actually break down into something that you can even understand, much less separate the emotional piece from it, so that you can use your story to help others? And then there have been so many wonderful blessings to come through the first Permission Movement experience, and I would just like to invite you to come on in and play with us a little closer. If what Aileen said, if this information resonates with you, jump in. Be a part of it. Stay connected with us, because there will be so many wonderful opportunities in the future. And if you're a businesswoman who's either looking to start a new business, or you're in business and you're at a point where you are really interested in growing your business, you want to connect with us as well. We've got amazing things that are going to be happening through the balance of the Permission Movement experience, as well as through each of the presenter teachers that we've brought to you through this. Aileen being one of them, and I would just love to say thank you so much for all that you've brought to the Permission Movement experience and to this module. Thank you, Aileen.
Thank you, Lynn. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's always lovely talking to you, and it's great to be part of the Permission Movement. So I thank you for all the work that you've done putting this amazing series together, and the whole movement. In fact, it's marvelous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I do want to ask you, as we're closing things up here, is there one thing that you would like for our audience to take away with them, to remember as they're moving through hearing intuition speak to them? What would that be?
I think it would be just make a decision to pay attention to the subtle messages that are already coming through. Things that perhaps you've discounted, a feeling in your gut, or just an intuition, a hint of, I should do that. If you usually discount them, or you don't pay much attention to them, just for a few days, for a week, let's say, decide to really pay attention and act as if this is priceless information coming through. And let's see what happens if I, go with what this is telling me rather than what I habitually do, and just see whether.
Beautiful. Thank you, Aileen. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of Aileen, myself, and the Permission Movement trainers and co-authors of the Permission to Be Powerful book, I want to just say thank you to our audience for joining us and for being a part of a movement to help others to understand how you can give yourself permission to be, to do, and to have everything that you desire that's good and beautiful in your life. Thank you again, and we will see you on the other side. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.